Welcome to Connect Canyons, a podcast sponsored by Canyon School District. This is a show about what we teach, how we teach, and why. We get up close and personal with some of the people who make our schools great. Students, teachers, principals, parents, and more. We meet national experts too. Learning is about making connections. So connect with us.
Podcasts have become a major medium for gathering information. Whether we're talking about entertainment news, we're talking about learning about history, learning how to cook, or even just grabbing your local news. In 2023, 42% of Americans aged 12 and older listened to a podcast in the past month. 75% of Americans ages 12 and over have listened to some kind of audio in the past month, while 70% listened in the past week. Welcome to Connect Canyons. I'm your host, Francis Cook.
I thought it was Union Weekly.
Oh, wait. Where am I? Oh, yeah.
You're at Union.
I'm at Union.
Home of the Bobcats.
Love these Bobcats. Hi, guys. I am mobile today, visiting with our friends at Union Middle School, where they have a weekly podcast as well. It's called Union Weekly. They've kindly let me commandeer this podcast, which is quite the contradiction in terms, I know, but I just love any excuse to use the phrase commandeer. This podcast is run by Mr. Schlesinger, history teacher here at Union Middle.
Yep.
As well as two student hosts, Zander Frisbey and Hailee Warner, both 8th graders here at the school. Hi, guys.
That's right.
Hi.
Howdy.
Tell us about your podcast. What goes into it? How do you choose your topics? I want to know everything.
So I'll just start off by saying this is my, I think, third year teaching. And I was previously over at West Jordan High School. And I was trying to find ways to make assessments less like the traditional old way of taking a test, because I think history is alive and it needs to be told and discussed. And so I was trying to think of ways to change that and make it just like that.
Yeah.
And I had seen a video of someone saying, hey, and I'd learned from a mentor teacher as well, who did podcasts as a way of assessment. And so I'm like, I'm going to try that. So I tried it last year and it went really well. I moved over here. And we started our first 2 weeks of school at Union this week. This year.
This year,
Yeah. Online, because our building wasn't ready.
Right.
And so I was trying to express to the students, because we did it over Zoom for 2 weeks, what the class is going to be like. We kind of got into our first little bit of the unit. And I remember mentioning that, hey, for an assignment or two, we might be doing a podcast style assessment. And little to my knowledge at the time, Zander decides to make it his pet project and goes out and gets all this fancy equipment from the district. And so that's kind of how it all started, is Zander's like, ooh, let's do an actual school podcast, Mr. S. I'm like, oh, okay, sure, why not?
So you took this project and made it permanent. What drove you to want to carry this along?
I've always wanted to do a podcast, but I've never known what to do it about, as it's always seemed so cool to me, and like people doing podcasts, I'm like, man, I want to be like them. So I mean, on Zoom, he mentioned it, and I stayed after the Zoom was done, and like, hey, we should do a podcast.
I was like, yeah, I've got some basic equipment, I'm sure. And so for our first couple episodes, it was on my most basic rudimentary podcast microphones.
Yeah.
And we shared microphones. And then he's like, I have connections over at the district. I can get us some nice top tier stuff. And thus we have this.
Yeah.
The setup, it's really nice.
So shout out to CSD TV.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Thank you,
Big shout
Mr.
out.
Anderson.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Hailee, how did you get involved?
Zander said that he wanted to do it with like all the student ambassadors, but the first person he was going to do it with dipped last second. So that's why I'm here.
But also it's nice having, because we're both the student ambassadors, so
Sure.
I think it's good having some people that represent the school do a podcast, as they should know their stuff.
Yeah.
So what kind of topics do you guys talk about?
I mean, so when this whole thing started, I told Zander, if we're going to do this is all you, bud. I don't have a lot of time to run a podcast. So I told Zander, you're getting our guests, you're planning everything. I'm going to run the soundboard. I'm going to be here to help out, but you run it. So he's gone through and gotten different teachers, admin, all kinds of people on our podcast. It's awesome.
Yeah, just bringing on different guests to discuss different elements of the school and highlighting different parts, as I think it's important that students are aware of the teachers and the teachers around them and build those connections. And I think that's really important.
I imagine you're learning a lot about your teachers too, right? They're more than just the guys in front of the classroom, right?
Yeah, and it's really cool to see that different perspective in a good way.
What are your favorite parts, guys, about doing this podcast?
I love getting to interview different teachers every week, as I think it's cool to, and not just teachers, but also like staff around the school, and from our principal to the PE teacher, the theater teacher, and just learning. And it's cool how I get to share this type of interview with the whole school and all that. And I just think it's a good opportunity.
I would have to say the same.
I just love being able to do this with these two. It's going to be a little weird next year.
Moving on up.
Yeah, moving on up. But I just enjoyed learning. I mean, this is my first year at Union, and if you ever walk through our building, you can see that I'm kind of stuck in my pod all day, and so I don't get out and see as many teachers as I would like to. And so getting to talk to them, and I love my questions of the day. I'm a big history nerd.
Same.
And so being able to ask my questions and then be able, when it happens, to give out a whole bunch of PBIS points to the students who come and answer the question. I mean, I tried to give out a whole bunch of points to make it be like, hey, here's your chance to go spend at the store.
Yeah,
You just got to ask the simple
market.
question. Yeah.
So it's basically like a credit towards your school market. Is that what a PBIS
Yeah,
is?
so PBIS points are
Currency.
yeah, it's school currency. It's how we run our Bobcat market, which I know Zander is president
Yeah, I'm president of that.
of that. So Xander's got his hand in every pocket
Xander's
here.
busy.
Yeah.
He's very busy.
He's very busy. But so it's just credit. You can buy school supplies. Right now, the biggest thing that's selling out right now, again, another innovation of Zander. I think he's got one. If not, I've got mine on my desk. He wanted another way to make connections between students and faculty,
Sure.
and he used his idea based off Pokemon cards.
You literally just whipped those out of your
This is
pocket.
amazing. Okay, so Zander has just handed me essentially playing cards for the teachers here. So I've got Mr. S's card right
Yep.
here. He's a time-traveling titan, apparently. 8th grade history coach. He brings the founding of our nation to life with the vigor of a champion. Who wrote this?
Xander did.
Wow.
This was all Xander.
So they're paw cards. Okay, so
Yeah.
you collect them all like Pokemon.
Yeah,
Gotta catch them all.
Gotta
Right?
And
catch
then
'em all.
at the bottom, I think left, like if you look on my card, it has 2 music notes.
Yeah.
So there's little things that you can do to redeem. So like in my class, I play music throughout my class,
Okay.
just to kind of keep it relaxed in class.
Yeah.
And so one of my things that you do is you can request to play a song as long as it gets approved by me.
Sure.
And so they have 2 little actions. For other cards, it's a free assignment pass or something like that.
Miss Zhang gives out books.
Yep.
That's
Well,
amazing.
It's a little bit of a joke because books are free at the library. So
Get it? See what you did there? I will say shout out to Miss Zhang. She sent us some pictures of your newly set up library, and it looks
beautiful.
amazing. Xander, this is such a great idea. So you've got everything from fun things like this to your student supplies and things. So I want to know what Hailee and Zander, what you two as students are taking away from this. So, I know it's more than just learning about your students. You're learning a lot of different skill sets with this too, right?
oh yeah, I would say I've learned how to better speak clearly in a way.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's
Diction.
diction is
Yes.
definitely an important skill in life. So being on a podcast, I would say, allows me to work on that, and then also that you also learn like the skill of journalism in a way because you're interviewing.
Asking a lot of questions, trying to get to the bottom of things.
Yeah. What about you, Hailee?
People skills.
It's so true.
Yeah, and
I don't like to talk to people.
Did
Gosh,
you know
she's
you're on a
learning.
podcast?
She's learning.
Just checking.
18 episodes in.
Listen, you're way far ahead than many of your other students. I mean, Xander, I know you're in CSD TV. Hailee, are you as well?
Yes.
That's awesome. So for those who don't know, CSD TV is our newest broadcast program. So they
It's
do
amazing.
everything from podcasts to live sports. I mean, you name it. Mr. S, what have you seen in terms of students being able to learn from not only the podcast, but it sounds like you're really taking the idea of teaching history and bringing it up to a new level.
Yeah, well, that's something I've been trying to do. And I'm just always trying to find ways to be innovative because our students these days are so intelligent, especially in ways that are more creative than, I guess, we grew up kind of being. Like when we were in school, it's like, hey, this is the history. You need to memorize this date and this time.
Yeah. Take copious notes and we'll give you a big old test at the end.
Yeah, and I found as a historian that I've got this great tool called the World Wide Web. I don't
Isn't
need
it magical?
I know.
These
is
kids
magical.
have no idea.
And so I'm just like, we've got our phones. I mean, I've got a watch where I could pull up information if I really wanted to. They don't need to know dates. They need to know ideas and how to solve the problems that they're going to be facing in the world. And so I tried to set these students up to fail in an environment where they can succeed. So what I mean by that is when we get out into the real world, we have consequences for making mistakes.
Right.
Here, we can learn to make mistakes in an environment where it doesn't really affect us. And so that way, when we get out into the world, it's like, okay, I know how to do this now. And so that's what I try to teach in my class. I try to teach, and Mrs. Hailee, right above me, she's also my other 8th grade history teacher. She's awesome. We try to be as innovative as we possibly can in teaching history. Like, for example, we just finished our 3rd simulation today. So we had first we had a presidential election.
Okay.
Where we learned about the executive branch.
Wow.
Then the legislative branch, we had all of our students be Congress. They wrote their own bills. They tried to pass laws. They saw how difficult it is to pass laws. And then we just finished a mock trial today.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and we did the case of the Republic of Rome versus Marcus Brutus for the murder of Julius Caesar.
Oh, wow.
Mrs. H and I have planned, we've got westward expansion as our next unit, and we're like, westward expansion is so tough. It's kind of boring. So we're trying to find ways to spice it up. And so we're going to incorporate ideas from the TV show Loki and time travel and alternate reality.
You really are.
Yeah,
like
time
the card says, the time traveling time.
Yeah.
Boom.
So we're going to use alternate reality and what if scenarios to discuss the Oregon Trail, to discuss President Jackson and his many different political reforms, and hopefully gets these kids engaged and not making them hate history.
That's a great point. It's a good way to bring in the history that normally, for you and I, we were reading it in a textbook, trying not to fall asleep.
Yeah.
But
if I can make history as lifelike as possible, then maybe it's not the boring dates and old people who lived hundreds of years ago. It's interesting.
I'll be honest, my views on history before this year was like, oh, I have history, 2nd period. Are you serious? I just was like not looking forward to it. However, Mr. S he has a unique style of teaching and how he gives us the information instead of just, all right, this is the information, write down notes, fill in the blanks, and we're going to have a test. We're all kind of used to that. However, he's really, I feel like, evolved history in a way for us.
that is so cool.
Yeah, and we've used podcast. One of their last assessments was, I need you to create the 28th Amendment.
Oh, wow.
Since we don't have a 28th Amendment. Nope, we have a 27th. It was 28th.
Yeah, it's 28.
Creating a new one.
Yeah, so you got to create a new one, and then they had to do, what was it, a 7 to 10 minute podcast.
It was a 5-minute
5-minute podcast episode on what that is and what you're doing. So, yeah, it's fun.
That's really awesome, to hear that you're, again, just going beyond the textbook and making it something tangible.
History's all around us. Let's practice it.
We're making it every day.
Yeah, let's practice it.
Tell me, what are your, and this question is for all three of you, what are your biggest takeaways from having done this podcast throughout the year?
People skills.
People skills.
I would say the connections.
Okay.
because I feel like it's a unique experience and something you don't get every day.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. Just learning how to express yourself without being able to be seen, I think, is a skill that needs to be learned. Being very descriptive, because obviously people aren't here with us. So if we're gonna like the cards or explaining history, we need to learn to be descriptive and use our words. And so I think that's something I've learned doing this podcast, is if I'm describing something, hey, let's really put it in our listeners' heads.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think this is so great. For the record, I know you guys aren't the only school that does podcasts, but we'd heard a lot about yours, so we wanted to come in and see what it's all about, and this is pretty awesome.
Absolutely. I mean, this was all Zander's idea. I just helped make it happen.
You're welcome, Union. Mic drop.
Let's not drop these ones.
Yeah, let's not drop these.
Do we want to do a
we can do the question of the week, okay?
Love this part.
Okay. I don't know how.
Can we ask for a crazy story after?
Yeah, if you want to do the crazy story after.
Start thinking.
Yeah, start thinking of a crazy story you had from working in education.
We ask this every week.
Yes. So think about it.
New, so okay, give me a minute.
Think about it. I'll do my question. And let's just say, if you're listening to this podcast, I'll give you my email. And if you want to answer, I can't give you PBIS points, but I'll find something. I'll send you a good job. You're correct.
Pat on the back.
Yeah, good job.
Sticker.
So oh, jeez.
We'll send you a Union Weekly sticker.
Yeah, we'll send you a
mail.
PAW card.
Yeah, we'll send you a PAW card of Mr. S.
There we go. Okay. So I've said this on our Union Weekly podcast. I get a lot of teaching ideas from this cool app called TikTok. And
we don't talk about TikTok.
And so I saw this trend on TikTok, so I've started to try it. So here's what I'm going to do. The trend is, you say something, you ask a question that has multiple answers.
Okay.
And then I write down my answer. And if you tell me your answer and it's the same as mine, you lose.
Okay.
So you have to think of something else that's different. And I'm going to have you all as my witnesses.
So can we do like a practice question?
Yeah, so here's a practice question. I want you to name a war, any war, in history. Okay, I'm going to write down my answer.
Hailee, go first.
Hailee, go first.
World War II.
Okay, World War II.
Civil War.
Civil War.
Battle of the Bulge.
Oh, Battle of the World. I had the American Revolution. So you guys win. Good job.
Yes.
Okay, so
that was practice.
Yeah,
so
that's the
now-
premise. Okay, so first off, my email is ZACHARY dot, here comes the long last name, SCHLESINGER @canyonsdistrict.org. Okay, so email me your answer, and maybe Zander and I can come up with something to send you. Okay, so, and if you're at Union and you listen to this, of course I'll give you PPIS points.
Yes.
Okay, so here we go. I want you to name me a historical movie. Historical movie. Hold on, I'm going to write mine down. I want to try and trick people. So I'm going to say my favorite in a second, but it's
Okay.
not this one.
But so you're going to tell us your favorite, but it's not the one you were writing down right now. Oh, there's so many.
Okay, I wrote mine. So if somebody says that,
Okay.
I have you three as my witnesses.
We have
Okay.
witnessed there are words on a paper.
Yep. Okay, my favorite one, one that I've been in love with lately, is called Phil de Lost Shoes.
I don't even know that one.
Oh, it's sad, but it's good.
I love a good sad story.
Okay, so Phil de Lost Shoes.
One of my favorites was in 1989, so pre you guys. It was Jacob the Liar.
Oh, that's a good one.
Do you guys have any movies off the top of your head that are?
I don't really watch TV.
Yeah, Zander doesn't watch it. Xander's too busy.
He
How you
also
guys know?
can't sit still.
Oh, there
Yeah.
is that. There is that. Haley, how about you?
Oh, the first movie that I thought of when you said historical was Indiana Jones.
That worked. I mean, there's history base. Is it because I have
And
is it because I have the Holy Grail and the Ark of the Covenant in my room?
No.
Oh,
And then the last movie I thought of, but I don't actually know if it's a movie, but I've read the book, The Diary of Anne Frank.
Yes,
That-
it is a movie. Mhm.
yeah. They've made.
That's a great
movies,
one.
Yeah. Diary of Anne Frank. That's a good one. That's sad.
Yeah. Like you said, history movies can be sad, but they can
Yeah.
have some uplifting
Yeah,
stories
there's some
too.
good ones.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you guys for letting me come and crash your podcast here and,
Yeah, of course.
get to know about how you do things.
Mm-hmm.
So when we wrap up our podcast, we give out an email for people to send in topic ideas. Do you guys have people send in?
We don't, but that's a great idea.
That's a good idea.
If there's something you want to hear on the Union Weekly, then send it our way. And also go listen to our episodes. We've got currently, I think we've got 16 out. We're about to release 17.
We actually already on 17.
Okay, so
18's going out.
Okay, so we released 17. We're about to release 18, and so I think they're all fantastic. You can see the development in these two, especially as we progress throughout the year.
And you can find them all on the school website. That's where the link is.
Perfect.
And you actually, anywhere you really listen to music, you can, or find your podcast, you could just look up Union Weekly and you'll have it.
There you go. Head on over to Union Middle, check out their podcast. Thank you all for letting me join you today. Thanks everyone for listening. If there's a topic you want to hear discussed on Connect Canyons, you can send us an email to communications@canyonsdistrict.org.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Connect Canyons. Connect with us on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram @Canyons District, or on our website, canyonsdistrict.org.